and welcome to Jesus for Asia Now. I'm Natalie Wood and my husband John is here with me today. Hello, love.
Hi, darling. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
You know, it's kind of exciting because normally when we tell Bible worker stories,
Yep.
they're from India.
Yes.
But today we have some more from the Philippines.
Yes. Most of the stories from our Bible workers come from India because we have over 400 Bible workers in India.
Right. And in the Philippines, by contrast, we have about 30, maybe a few less than 30, I believe.
Right.
But anyway, we have a lot fewer workers, but that doesn't mean the stories are any less amazing.
Right.
Or any less
inspiring.
Proof of what God is doing.
Absolutely.
So,
and there's still a huge field in the Philippines, even though the Philippines is considered a reached country.
right.
It's 90% Catholic. And so for Protestants, that's still a big mission field.
Right.
Yeah.
Still very unreached.
Yeah. The way that we got started is I had heard that there was a plan to set up a TV satellite ministry based out of the Philippines that would cover all of Asia. And so they had requested me to come and do a training in July of 2008.
Okay.
I was sitting down to order my tickets to go to Iloilo, which is in the western central, there's like 7,000 islands in the Philippines. And there's like the big one in the north called Luzon, and the big one in the south called Mindanao, and then a bunch of littler ones in the center. And all of those together are called the Visayas. Okay, and over on the far west is an island called Panay. And in the southern part of that island is Iloilo.
Okay.
And so I was getting ready to purchase my tickets to go to Iloilo. And I saw news of this massive typhoon that was coming in over Iloilo. And it had, most of them come in and just keep going. They call that Typhoon Alley. It just comes in and just keeps on going. But this one, it came in and it sat over the mountains of Panay, north of Iloilo. And it dumped like 6 months worth of water in like 3 days. And, for people like in Arizona, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, but this is a tropical country, and
Yes.
they do normally have quite a bit of monsoon rain.
Yes. And so this massive flood happened, and water just
Mudslides and...
Yeah, and 5,000 people lost their lives. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to wait a little bit. So I waited a month and went over there. We did our training. And while I was there, this training was sponsored by a local church who was trying to do the TV satellite ministry. All the displaced people that lost their homes, that their livelihoods were destroyed, that, lost family members, they were running out of things like drinkable water, a shelter, rice, some of those basic life's necessities. And so the church had organized a giveaway. So they packed up the truck with all the aid supplies and they drove out to a very needy area. And this is what's so beautiful about what they did, is before just handing it out, they said, hey guys, we want to have a small meeting, 5 minutes of your time. This event was prophesied in the Bible. And you may think that it's from a God that is angry, but it's actually not. This is in prophecy, but it's a loving God wants to give us insight into how, what's going to happen in the future and how to have salvation full and free. Would you like Bible studies? And within a few days, 2,800 people signed up for Bible studies.
Wow.
This is just a little church. Who's going to give 2,800 Bible studies?
Yeah, they were like, we can't do this by ourselves.
No, they have regular jobs. They're lay people. They just don't have the time. I mean, they can do, a few a week, but 2,800?
Yeah.
And so we're like, can we hire some Bible workers? And they said, sure. There's people that are willing to do that full time with a small stipend. Now, it's more expensive to live in the Philippines than it is in India.
Right.
So the stipend's a bit higher, but I think it was $150 a month is what we started out with. What they went beyond just hiring Bible workers. They started an AFCO for the Philippines. They work with Amazing Facts, and Amazing Facts started their own AFCO up in Manila, but they did something like it. It's called the West Visayan Conference Center of Evangelism, or College of Evangelism.
Right.
Down there.
So it's local to that conference.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they trained some Bible workers into doing Bible work, and they're out there they call them barangays, and a barangay is like a town,
Neighborhood.
a village.
Town.
It's more than a village. It's more like a town. I don't really understand what it really is, but it's like an incorporated town thing. They have a chief and they have government and
Okay.
all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of barangays that don't have, access to the light that we have, the hope that we have. And so they've been doing this work ever since 2008.
Wow. Awesome. So our first story is of one of these Bible workers.
Uh-huh.
And she was married to an American before.
Yes.
And he has left.
Yeah.
And left her and her daughter by themselves. But
Right.
they used to be quite wealthy.
Yeah, they were into business, and she talks about that in the video, but they had a business, and they became focused on the business and making money. And they kind of left God out of the picture. And the result of that, of course, was a dissolved marriage. He left the country, and she's then left with the daughter. And then she decided during that time to go back to God and to put him first again in her life. And she's doing an amazing. We have 2 videos about her.
Okay.
And the first one is her living place and her daughter and just their living situation.
Okay. Let's watch that now.
Okay.
Diri ako nag-star sa gamay nga room.
This is where I live, in this small room.
This is my humble room. Very small, but it's just enough sa amon sang akong bata.
It's very small, but it's enough for me and my daughter.
Please, we have nature view there. That's why this is what I like our room. We can see the view.
When we are not in a hurry, we cook on the charcoal stove downstairs, things like porridge. But when we just boil water or cook simple food, we just do it here on our small stove.
Simple food lang, reheat diri sa amon gamay nga gasolite.
Where do you eat?
Kakaon dire. We have a tiny table. We have a tiny table. Very simple lang gid amon nga kuan.
Before, when my husband was still here, we did a lot of business. I experienced what it's like to have a lot of money. Our goal was to build a wellness center, but our focus shifted to serving self. Then trials came into our lives. My spa business was burnt to the ground. Everything was ruined. We went back to zero. Maybe the Lord allowed it so I can be humble, or maybe God reminded me of my promise that I would be a co-laborer with Him. I had forgotten my promise to God because we were busy with our business. My life before was very comfortable, but I was far from God. Today, I have peace of mind.
Peaceful of mind.
I told my daughter, be content with what we have.
Be content with what we have lang, anak.
Whatever our food is, just eat it. Don't look for other food, because we don't have a lot of money.
Diri as a Bible worker.
Now that I am a Bible worker, it feels really good that whatever I need, big or small, God provides.
Provide niya bala.
I have proved and tested that God really provides.
Kung ikumpara ko ang life ko, tama ka peaceful.
Our life today is very peaceful. I don't worry about anything. I just trust God.
Wow.
Beautiful, huh?
It's interesting, the comparison. You know, she was busy before and she had a lot of things going on in her life.
And she's
And
very
she
wealthy.
forgot her promise to God.
Mm.
Yeah, and she was getting more and more wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says God allowed trials so he'd remember him.
Yeah. And now she has a very simple life, a very peaceful.
Right.
And she's content. She's not worried about money. Before, when she had a lot of money, she was worried about money.
Yeah.
And now she doesn't have it, and she's not worried about it because she knows God provides.
Right. Right. I love how she made a promise that she would be a co-laborer with God, and God brought her back around to that. And she's got comfort and peace in that.
Yeah, which is what we'll see in our next video about her, about what she actually does and the joy that she gets from doing what she does.
All right. Well, let's watch the second video now.
Okay.
Actually, dire.
The people around here call me doctor. They call me doctor because I'm always treating the sick. But I tell them that I'm not a doctor because I didn't finish the naturopathy training, but they're used to calling me doctor. If someone is sick, they come to me, or they'll call and tell me that someone is sick, and I go there immediately.
Every time makakita ko sa tao.
Every time I see a sick person, every time I see someone who can't walk, I really pity them. I want to help them.
Through diet, through hydrotherapy, kag massage, kung hindi siya makuha sa massage, so maybe sa water therapy, kay different kinds of diseases, hindi mo makuha sa massage.
I'm dealing mostly with stroke patients here.
Stroke patients dire.
And I was able to bring healing to more than 10 of them by the grace of God.
Sa bulig sang Ginoo. Ginaghimo ko ini nga with
I'm doing this at no charge because I don't want them to have just physical healing.
physical health kundi
I want them to have spiritual healing as well.
right after
Right after I treat them, I give them Bible studies.
gina-Bible studyhan ko sila para pag natapos ang
So when all their treatments are finished, their Bible study course is also completed. They have physical healing, and at the same time, they have spiritual healing. They are very thankful to me and to God. I love to share God's word with them and make them well.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. It's so neat how she's able to use the natural remedies
And
to
prayer.
help people. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And her focus is on the spiritual healing,
Yes.
but she realizes that they need physical healing
Yes.
so much. It's
Yeah.
what a beautiful opportunity to serve.
Yeah, and she could charge quite a bit of money for, I mean, if she's healed or brought 10 people from stroke to recovery,
Right.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, rehab is pretty intense for
Yeah.
a stroke patient many times.
Right, and she
So-
chooses to do it for no pay so
Right.
that she can direct people's attention to the Father in heaven who does the actual healing.
Right.
So it's an
Right.
amazing ministry from a person that's quite qualified to make a good salary, and yet she's doing this for the cause of God.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting too that she originally, when she and her husband had the business, she said, we were raising money for a wellness center,
Ah,
but then they lost the vision for that and they just started raising money.
for themselves.
And then but she's being able to be a mobile wellness center going around and helping people.
Right. So it's beautiful to see the heart of service and the joy that she has in service.
Right, right. And what a privilege.
Yes.
You know, and a blessing that she can be. That's just awesome.
And it's a privilege for us now to serve her.
Right.
To enable her to do what God has called her to do.
Right, right. What a blessing.
Yes.
Now we want to move to a different part of the ministry.
Yes.
And that is in a place where sometimes it's hard to get in. Sometimes it's easy, depending on your life choices.
People get in without wanting to.
Exactly.
I don't know anybody that wants to get in there.
Well, if they want to go into minister, sometimes it's difficult
True.
to get into minister.
Right.
But we're talking specifically about prison ministry.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing that God can use anybody.
Yes.
And some of our best Bible workers are ex-cons.
Yes.
Which is amazing. I mean, we met one man when we were in the Philippines last. He's like, yeah, I used to blow up things.
Yep.
And now I try to blow God into everything. Or I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he's like, yeah, I used to blow up things, and now I try to blow the gospel into people's lives or something like that. I don't remember, but it was kind of funny how he was saying
lost
it.
in translation.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But anyway, it's just seeing how God took him from someone that had selfish interests, you know, just like Chris, the Bible worker we just heard the story of. We see God took him from someone who was out for his own gain. He was doing demolition for hire, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, it's so neat to see how God can take that and turn a life around.
Yeah, I think he likes to do that. I think he specializes in taking the least likely people and doing the most amazing things in them.
Right.
We see this a lot of times in a lot of different ways.
Right.
And he loves doing it.
Right. So the Bible worker we want to talk about now is not out of prison.
No.
He is serving a life sentence.
Yes. He started out in Iloilo, but they've moved him to a maximum security prison up near Manila, up in the north. Okay. And so he's serving a life sentence inside the prison. But while he was in prison, some of our Bible workers reached him and invited him to their program. Well, you'll hear this story.
Okay.
But invited him to the program. He accepted Christ in the prison, and now he's living out his life sentence for Christ in the prison. And he's one of the organizers for the work that we have in the prison. So he's like one of the main people to bring people together and coordinate who's going to speak and all that kind of stuff. So, and he's on fire. He is really in love with God, and he's just calling people to a higher standard.
Mm-hmm. Now, I remember before he was moved to Manila that everyone was praying because there was a sentence to be set down.
The judge was deciding whether he should get life or stay, or I don't know, get it reduced, a reduced sentence. And everybody was praying for a reduced sentence. Right. But he was praying.
Right. He was surrendering.
Yeah.
He told the Lord, if you want me to go there to be a witness, then I'm willing. And that's what happened. And he was like, okay, Lord, I know it's your will. And so it was amazing because, you know, he could have been really sad or angry, but he was like, God must have a work for me at this other prison. And so he took up the work as soon as he got there.
Yeah. Now he has a supportive wife.
Right.
Very supportive wife. She takes care of, she brings him food. Now in these prisons, a lot of times, they're not provided a meal, and so their families have to bring them food.
Right.
And so, he's got a very supportive wife, and the church is behind him, but they're very remote. We can't go in to film him. We're not allowed in.
Right.
And so the video that we have of him here is him talking to a cell phone.
Okay.
So the quality is not as good, but you'll get a sense of what he's like.
Okay.
We were engaged in killings, sometimes extrajudicial killings. I was also engaged in robberies.
Engagement kami gihapon sa pang-hold up.
I was in prison when I was only 14 years old because I had been involved in different robberies and rumbles. Some of my companions died at that early age.
Isa usa ka dako nga siguro ang nag-open gid sa akon nga kabuhi.
The event that put me into that life was when a large gang came to our house and demanded that my father choose one from among his 6 children to go with their group as a vigilante.
Lalaki nga may isa sa amo niya magupod sa ilang nga grupo as mga vigilantes. So halin sa to,
My father pointed to me because I was the only one who was still single. So I went with them and helped in different killings.
Engaged na kami sa pangpamatay.
Rough life, hey?
Wow.
Can you imagine your father? This must have been a gang that came in that was threatening,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so he had no choice.
Right.
He was the only one that wasn't married yet. So his father said, take him to a
Yeah.
gang. And he ended up living that terrible life.
Mm-hmm.
Let's continue.
February 5, 2008.
On November 5, 2008, I was kidnapped by a group from Manila.
Sa isa ka grupo naging padala halingid sa Manila.
They didn't take me to the police, but to some place. I think it was underground.
Hindala ako sa isa ka lugar nga ginapamatsagan ko nga ara ako sa underground. Kay
I was blindfolded and tied by my hands and feet. I was kept in that place for 35 days.
35 dias. Dito lang ako sa sadto nga lugar. Amo lang ina ako.
When I eat, they would spoon feed me. If I needed to poop, they just cleaned me.
Kung kinahanglan ko nga magkuan sa akong higko, ginatinduan lang nila ako. Pero kagpos gina-torture.
They tortured me to try to force me to tell them who my bosses were and where my companions were.
Dinagpalagyo nga mga lugar.
Right there, I remembered the name of God. I told God that if I survived that situation, I promise that I will serve Him with my life.
Kita ko sa iya.
Wow. So he was tortured and terribly. And that's where he made his promise back to God.
Yeah.
Let's
Wow.
watch more.
Some of my companions in the cell were baptized Seventh-day Adventists. They were singing songs from a hymnal and having a worship service, and so I joined them.
Ako sa ila. Natingala
They were surprised that I knew some of the songs in the hymnal. I told them that I was born in an Adventist family and was baptized when I was in the 5th grade.
baptize ako sa grade 5. Isa nga nagdala sa akon. Sandaligay ko
What brought me to my evil behavior was my hatred towards my parents,
man sa akon nga ginikanan because of the poverty.
because they showed favoritism to my siblings. I told myself that if I grow up,
Dako ko
I will get my revenge.
kasi kamo sa akon.
So everything that I have done, the robberies and the killings, was not because of the money.
Sa kwarta, kung gusto
I just wanted to hurt my parents.
pero subong
But now, since I learned about God's word, I learned that revenge is not good.
sala gali. Kagang
And I realized that I misinterpreted my parents.
interpret ko lang akong ginikanan sa Duman ko February 4, 2012.
I remember, it was February 4, 2012 in the afternoon. That was the day I went back to the Seventh-day Adventist church. My cellmate, who invited me, kind of tricked me, because what we agreed was that I just wanted a copy of the lyrics for the song, "Why Have You Chosen Me?" But when I got there, they were telling everyone that I was an Adventist. After the program, they asked me to lead the closing prayer, even though it was my first time to attend, and I immediately knew in my heart,
Sorry.
it felt like this is my home. Since then, I never miss any of the programs. And in April 2012,
April 2012, nag-decide ako nga maparibaptize.
I was rebaptized.
Isn't that an amazing testimony?
Yeah.
The first time he goes to a Bible meeting, they asked him to pray. And it was in that prayer that he realized, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
It was like his conversion.
Yeah.
From somebody asking a first-time visitor to pray. Incredible.
Yeah.
It's a very bold thing to do, to ask somebody that's never been there before to pray a closing prayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what got his heart.
Right.
Amazing.
Right. Yeah. And it's so beautiful to see how he realized that he wasn't doing all that stuff because of money or anything. He was doing it because he wanted to get even with his parents. And yet here he is seeing that this God, loved him still and wanted to change his heart. And
Yeah.
he was baptized in 5th grade. So it's like God brought him back around to himself. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's watch some more.
Pero malipayon gid ako subong labi na gid sa mga kultura niya.
I'm so happy today, especially for my brethren that were sent here to show His great love for us. I'm not the only one that is happy. There's also many other prisoners here that have lost hope. Now they've been given hope again too, and the courage to go on with their lives.
Nakakatagan liwat sa paglaom sa pagpadayon sa kapuwi.
Prisoners' lives are being changed daily through God's Word that we are learning. In spite of all of the hardships and sadnesses that we are going through, including missing our families and loved ones, in spite of all of these trials, God is here for us.
Hindi makahinder sa aton ini nga mga rihas sa aton palibot.
These bars that surround us don't hinder us. They don't prevent us, whatever situation we have, because the work of God is for all the world. God sometimes places us where we will be most effective, where we should be to do His work. Many of us are longing for freedom, but for me, freedom from these bars is not the answer. It's not the answer to our thirst and hunger for our future. Some of us want to be free, to have a better future. But for me, as of now, through studying His words, I believe that wherever you are, if you are with God, there is where true freedom is found, and your future is secure in His hands.
Amazing testimony, isn't it?
Yeah.
Proud to have him as a Bible worker.
Yeah. Yeah.
The work in the prison is going very well. And of course, people are in there, they don't have a lot to do. So they have time, and of course, they're there with nothing to do except think about what they've done with their lives. So they're looking, many of them are looking for a better way to live. Many of them have not even had options or seen that there was any other way to live. They just kind of got into the bad lifestyle and didn't know how to get out.
Right.
And so when Christ comes along, it gives them hope, gives them a future. And as Bernie was saying, it doesn't matter where you are. If you have Christ, your future is secure.
Right. Right. Well, that's a beautiful story of how God can change lives.
So inspiring.
So beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful and inspiring.
Yes.
If you would like to enable these workers and help the work go forward in the Philippines, you can contact us at Jesus for Asia, P.O. Box 1221, Collegedale, Tennessee 37315. Call us at 423-413-7321 or visit our website at jesusforasia.org. May God richly bless you until we see you next time on Jesus for Asia Now.